so I know some of you really love the writing tutorials on Friday. So we're going to go ahead and continue with that, even though I've done quite a lot of videos this week in this style. But some of you seem to really enjoy them because you're able to learn something, which is cool. Cool. I like telling stories. I like doing videos like this. The only issue with it is that it takes my computer forever to process them, but that's okay. So anyway, let's get started. Today's topic is writing the unsaid. Mastering subtext in dialogue and narrative. Now, we've hit this subtext topic a couple of different times. Last week we did whispers between the lines, how subtext fuels romantic tension. Chapstick. I think the gum is enough. You don't need to hear any mouth smack too. Then we did the power of subtext, saying more with less. That was the first tutorial on subtext, and we did that on March 3rd. We did that one on March 3rd, and we did another one last week, and this week we're going to do writing the unsaid, mastering subtext in dialogue and narrative. Of course, this article will be on the website as well. When readers talk about a story that stayed with them, they often can't quite articulate why. Why? It's not just the plot or the pacing or even how it's written, the prose, the words used. More often than not, it's the subtext, the emotional undercurrents. And I used to play in it was a play-by-email RPG. It's long defunct. But I played with somebody who was very good at subtext. And in order to understand the post, you had to understand what was not being said. Also, to respond to it, you had to understand what was not being said. And it made everything very, very interesting. It really did. So when you do subtext right, you make your story more interesting. And readers tend to remember it more. So, more often than not, it's the subtext. The emotional undercurrents, the tension in what goes unsaid, the invisible glue that holds a story together and makes it real. You want to make your story real for your readers, right? So, subtext is what characters think and feel, but don't say out loud. It's the private truth behind a polite smile, or the tremor in a voice that doesn't match the words. Mastering subtext is one of the most powerful tools you can use as a writer. And it's one of the most powerful tools you can develop. The better you get at this, the better your stories will be. And yet, it remains one of the least understood and most rarely taught fiction skills. That's why I want to bring it to you. That's why I'm hitting it from 3 different directions. It's really, really important. Let's cover it again. What is subtext? Subtext is the meaning beneath the surface of dialogue or narrative. Dialogue. Wonderful, Joe said with no enthusiasm. I can't open the door if that statue is that close to the door, Martha said, just as the statue hit the bottom of the door again. I think it's trying to bow the door outward. So in that one, the subtext is Joe and his wonderful. Anyway, saying more with less. It's the difference between what a character says and what they mean or feel. So Joe says, wonderful, and he is like thinking the absolute opposite of wonderful. Like, we are in deep duty here, folks. Deep doo-doo. In real life, people rarely say exactly what they think. We hedge, deflect, lie, or perform. Great fiction mirrors this human behavior, right? So most people don't tell you what's on their mind. They'll hem and haw around and not tell you, and it is what it is. But you need to mirror that in your fiction. So compare these two exchanges. Direct dialogue. I'm angry you forgot my birthday. I might say something like that, but would you? Subtextual dialogue. Wow, must be nice to be so busy these days. You're so busy you forgot my birthday. The second line may sound casual, even friendly, but it carries emotional weight that the readers can feel. It invites them to read between the lines, which makes them more engaged. So, prior to this, you'd probably have something like the main character wondering where everybody is for their birthday, or why they haven't gotten any happy birthdays. And then, all of a sudden somebody comes in on the scene and they're like saying stuff, and the person's like, wow, must be really nice to be so busy. Like, where in the bleep and bleep is my birthday cake? So why does subtext matter? Well, first of all, subtext, you have to think. If you've got a lead in about a birthday, and then all of a sudden your main character's like, must be nice to be so busy, your readers have to think about why this character is saying what she's saying. Oh, this person was supposed to throw the birthday party, and this person didn't get any birthday party. Ding, ding, ding. We have a winner. So, subtext makes characters feel more realistic and layered. It adds tension to scenes, creates emotional complexity, and engages readers by asking them to do a little work, a little thinking. Reading becomes more immersive when readers are decoding emotional signals and interpreting what the characters aren't saying. And this is just a little bit off, I think. Yeah, okay. So, subtext is essential in dialogue between characters with conflicting goals. Scenes where a character is hiding something. Moments of high emotional tension. Any situation where what's being said is less important than why it's being said. Why it's being said. So, what are some techniques for writing subtext? 1. Use contradiction. When characters say one thing but their behavior shows another, readers pick up on the disconnect. This builds dramatic irony and emotional depth. Example, a character says, I'm fine, while gripping a glass so tightly it shatters. Or, they say it like this, I'm fine. Fine! See, fine. Obviously the character is not fine. 2. Employ body language and beats. I'm not really a fan of the word beats. That's more of a like a screenwriter's thing. But the beat is the rhythm of the story. So, describing nonverbal cues, a sigh, a glance, a clenched jaw, helps suggest what a character is really feeling without explicitly stating it. Tip: use these physical cues sparingly and precisely. One well-placed gesture is more effective than a paragraph of description. I say this a lot. Write minimally. right? Minimally. And there are techniques, literary, where you write out everything to boredom. Okay, it's so much description that the author gets bored, the readers get bored. If it's unimportant, it's okay to say the character picked up the back scratcher and not actually describe the back scratcher. Now, if they're going to use it, they might say maybe it's the back scratchers like this. They're like, the character picked up the back scratcher and unfurled it by 12 inches. Then they used it to scratch their back. Now, why would it become essential to describe how it looks, to tell what it's made out of? Think about that. What would make this so important in a story that you would need to describe that it has a black, forked, curved head, metal telescoping body, and a rubber handle grip? Why might you need to describe the whole thing? And then, in what instances would you not need to describe the whole thing? Number 3, write scenes about nothing. One of the best ways to practice subtext is to write a scene where characters discuss something mundane, something stupid, something that does not matter, like the weather or dinner plans. That actually used to drive me so nuts. I'm a little more tolerant about it, but I could not stand it when people were like, what a nice day. So what? What are you doing that's productive? What are you having for dinner? I don't care what I'm having for dinner. Why does that matter? I'm more tolerant of it now. And, the importance of it is, especially for the dinner aspect. Well, actually, those two things are pretty important for me now. Why does the weather matter? Because if it's raining, I can't go to the store. Why does dinner matter? Well, right now, dinner matters because I show you how to save money on dinner, or I show you what I'm eating to give you ideas about dinner. That's why dinner is important. So, 10 years ago, I really hated those questions, but now they're more important because my situation has changed. I don't have a car. I don't get to run out to my car and jump in when it's raining. Okay, I just don't go out. So anyway, write scenes about nothing. And then figure out why that scene about nothing is important. But remember to use subtext. So here's your exercise. Write a breakup scene where neither character says the word breakup. And if you want to make it very challenging, make the breakup scene all about the weather. They're breaking up, but all they're talking about is the weather. So 4, internal monologue versus external dialogue. Internal monologue is in your character's head. External dialogue is your character talking. So let the narration show what the character is thinking, especially when it contrasts with what they say out loud. Now that's a good reason to show some internal dialogue. If your character says wonderful and means it, you don't need anything else. If your character says wonderful and doesn't mean it, then you need to add something to it. Tell your readers that, hey, this character, they don't mean that. Or, that's fantastic. But they don't mean that. They mean it's awful, it's horrible, it's terrible. So, example, he smiled and told her that it didn't matter. But inside, something twisted. It had always. So the guy, he's like, oh, that doesn't matter. But inside, he feels like it does matter. Whatever this is, it matters to him. But he's saying to make this individual feel like she's all right, or he, that it doesn't matter. But your character's torn up inside. 5, cut out the obvious. Once you've written a scene, go back and remove any dialogue that spells things out too clearly. Trust the reader to pick up on the cues. Rule of thumb, if the dialogue feels like you're explaining the plot to the reader, it probably needs to be trimmed. We call that author vomit. Author vomit. And it can be nothing too. If a scene's got too much nothing, also author vomit. Her long, flowing hair, flow jet, author vomit. All right, so examples of subtext in. All right, the battery died. That sucked. So let's talk about examples of subtext in action. Ernest Hemingway's The Hills Like White Elephants is the gold standard for subtext. The entire story is a veiled conversation about abortion, but the word is never mentioned. And let's talk about the Godfather films. They use subtext masterfully. Characters speak in measured tones, but their words are full of menace, love, or betrayal. Let's take a walk. You deal with it. Deal with it. Right? They never say what they mean. We're going to take care of you. That kind of thing. They don't say what they mean, but they do what they mean. Jane Austen is a master of social subtext. In Pride and Prejudice, characters often speak in coded language that reflects the societal constraints and personal pride. Yeah, there are some games out there actually that do this, where they're in this time period, the same time period as Pride and Prejudice, and they have to act and behave a certain way, so they can't really say what's on their mind. So one character might like another character, and they can't even discuss it. They have to be like, hey, would you like to go for a walk out in the gardens after dinner? That's a date. That's a date back then. So anyway, what are some common pitfalls? Being too vague. Subtext should suggest, not obscure. Readers should be able to sense the deeper meaning. So don't make it too obscure. Overusing physical tics. Excessive sighing, eye rolling, or lip biting can feel melodramatic. Neglecting context. Subtext only works when the reader understands the stakes and the relationships involved. Make sure the groundwork is laid. So, what are the final thoughts in this? Well, subtext is the emotional fabric of a story. It turns straightforward scenes into layered experiences and dialogue into emotional battlegrounds. It's the moment the reader says, I just felt something there, even if they can't quite explain why. Like all writing skills, this actually takes practice to master. But once you learn to write what is unsaid, your stories will be at a whole new level. You will level up your writing. So, why don't you try it? Pick a scene from something you've written or something you've recently read. Identify a line of dialogue that states an emotion directly. Rewrite it using subtext. And if you want, continue on and see how, the scene you wrote and the scene you're writing, see how those things change and which one is better. It's always good to be able to compare and contrast, and let your characters lie a little bit. Let them hide, dodge, cover. The truth is somewhere underneath or somewhere in the middle. So anyway, folks, that's your writing tutorial for this Friday. Happy writing and good luck with your writing endeavors. I'll bring you another writing tutorial next Friday.